Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am in Greece, I'm in Crete, and I just spent 9 months in Southeast Asia. And I got here about a week ago, and it's cool, calm, and collected. The relative humidity is about 30% compared to 90. And I want to just explain the extreme differences of coming back to Europe for the first time since retirement and how it made me feel. So when you get off that plane, and you get into that cab, you feel the breeze, you see the blue sky, the blue ocean, and your skin color looks like everybody else's skin color. The way you walk, the way you interact with people, it's kind of like a reminder. I'm not from Scotland, so I'm not Greek, but you know what I mean? I felt like I was back in a place that I had a lot more familiarity with. Now, does that make me xenophobic or kind of like backwards thinking? I don't think so. I think that's just normal. And so in this town in Crete is called Heraklion. I'm going to spend a week, and then we're going to go to some other places in Greece. So you have to remind yourself that in Greece you got seasons, you got winter, you got spring, summer, and fall. And you can kind of like be familiar with that if you're from the UK or the US or whatever. So having been in Southeast Asia for 9 months, it's just hot. The only difference is either it's raining or it's not raining. So you got to bear that in mind. Now, what I also noticed was the pace of life. I stayed in some pretty big cities like Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok, and those were very exciting places to go. But when you come here to Greece, especially Crete, which is an island, it's completely different culture. Things are much, much slower, much more laid back, and much more, let's say, cordial. A lot of English speakers, and people will take the time. Like I got my hair cut today, and I was just having some banter with the guy that cut my hair, and he's like, "Oh, where are you from? Do you like seafood? Do you like meat?" So the guy was just like super friendly, and you don't always get that. So I really appreciate that contrast, and I'm going to make a few points here. Yeah. So one of the attractions of Southeast Asia is the cultural experience. It's extremely exotic to some people. Temples and the spirituality, the nightlife, everything is a little bit exotic and exciting, right? So that eventually wears off. It just does. It's not a novelty if you live there. It's just there. So that's one thing to compare. Now, there's a different culture here, which is they got a lot of history, right? The Greek history, a lot of culture, a lot of archaeology, philosophy, and a pride in what it is to be a Greek. So it's really a different mentality. And this seems pretty genuine to me. I'm not saying that Southeast Asian cultures are not genuine, but it's just a breath of fresh air for me anyway. So that was the second one. Here's my third point: cost of living. So definitely Southeast Asia, cost of living is extremely affordable. I've done a couple of videos on that. For everything is cheaper because it's a lower cost of living. And now, even though Greece is probably, especially this island that I'm on, Crete is probably one of the cheapest parts of Greece to live in. I know it is. And it's also still more expensive than most of Southeast Asia. Probably twice as expensive for everything you need. That's just the way it is. So it's cheap relative to America, cheap relative to most of Western Europe, but still 2 times more than you would pay in Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, etc. Now, it's still very affordable. Okay, another big difference is the food scene. I always talk about Penang, Malaysia has the best food scene in the world. I think Malaysia has the best food scene in the world. And get anything you want. In Greece, they have their own food scene. If you like seafood, you like very fresh vegetables and cheeses and wines and breads, and you're gonna have a good time. So different food scene. If you want spicy food, you're not gonna find it here. So my wife's been challenged with looking for spicy foods. So Number 5, community and social life. So community and social life as a nomad, I'm not highly qualified to talk about it because we keep moving every 2 or 3 months. But definitely in Southeast Asia, you know, expats get together, and sometimes you're not, I don't necessarily hang out at the bars with other expats. I just don't do it because I'm married. But, that's a part of the community, and expats tend to stick together in Southeast Asia. In Greece, so in this particular town of Heraklion, very, very family orientated and very kind of down to earth place to be. No pretension. The kids are out playing football on the street. People are just having coffees. So very strong family culture here in Crete, which is quite refreshing, quite nice to see. So that's my 5th point. Here's my 6th point. Natural beauty. So natural beauty in my 9 months in Southeast Asia has been rainforest, jungles, beaches, mountains, and it's largely unspoiled. Although I will say that in Southeast Asia, things can easily get spoiled. There's not a lot of respect for keeping places pristine and clean like you might be experiencing in your Western culture. So, but they do have a beauty in Southeast Asia that's mostly related to being lush, geoforest, and untouched. And that's there. In Greece, especially Crete, you're going to find rugged coastlines, beautiful beaches, and islands, many islands, and beautiful beaches. Really, it's a very attractive place for Europeans to come to get some gorgeous weather and to see some beautiful surroundings. So different, but they both have it in spades. So that's my point there. Number 7, overall vibe and feel. So vibe and feel. I've made videos from Bangkok where I've said it gives you energy. You're a net receiver of the energy because there's so much energy in that city that you can't help but get excited and get amped up and feel like you want to engage with that culture, even as a foreigner. And I still believe that. Same thing for Kuala Lumpur. I'd say particularly for Bangkok. So that's a vibe, right? So it makes you feel safe, you feel good, feel like you're a part of a big throbbing mass of community that's basically enjoying life and getting about their day and being peaceful while they do it. And this part of Greece, particularly in Crete, is very laid back. You feel very safe, very relaxed. And I know it's a tourist place, I know that, but you don't have, I'd say only 25% of the people around me are tourists. I'd say 75% are locals. And this is 6 o'clock at night. And it'll just get busier and busier. Like as people get out of work, they'll come down here to this large pedestrianized area and they'll just sit and have coffee or have some drinks, have some food, and they'll just talk. They'll talk and talk and talk. And they'll smoke. It's a big smoking culture here. But they'll enjoy themselves and people get along very, very well. So it's not energizing per se, it's more therapeutic, more philosophical, more laid back. And the contrast is the point of this video because nobody's got it right, nobody's got it wrong. It's the fact that as a nomad, I can experience both of these within the space of 2 weeks and begin to understand the differences in the culture and the way people live. And there's no single right answer, but I'd make that point. Next point, personal safety and comfort, differences between Southeast Asia and Greece. Okay, point number 8, personal safety. I've been in mega cities, Tokyo, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, and I feel completely safe. There's a strong rule of law. There's a strong idea that you don't commit petty crime on other people. That's been my personal experience. Back in Greece here, I feel equally safe, especially on this island. I'm not in a big city, right? I'm in a small provincial town in the southernmost island of Greece called Crete. And I feel very, very safe. So perhaps because the strong family bond here, perhaps because it's an island. I don't know the root cause of the fact that I feel safe, but I do feel safe, and I really appreciate that feeling. Especially walking around at night here feels just wonderful and liberating. So bear that in mind. So the reason I made this video is to explain how it is to spend 9 months in a particular part of the world as an American slash British person, as an explicit, obvious foreigner, and what that makes, how it makes you feel and how your interactions are. And then contrasting that with, after 9 months, coming back to Europe, where you kind of fit in. You're no longer perceived as a foreigner unless you open your mouth, and trying to explain that. Now, there's obviously a honeymoon period here where back in Europe, I'm feeling like, hey, you know, I belong here. The cost of living is probably 2x what I spend in Southeast Asia, which is not bad. It's still probably 0.5x what I'd be spending in the United States. So it's all relative, and I'm adding Greece to my target list of places I might retire. There's a lot of other reasons as well, apart from the climate and the cost of living and the other things I mentioned in this video, but I'm adding it in. And Nomad Millionaire officially is adding Greece into the candidate list for retirement once I cease becoming a nomad, or at least when I start to slow down. So if you have any comments below about Greece, if you lived in Greece, if you've gone to other places and ended up in Greece, I would love to hear about your experience and pros and cons of living here. I know it can be bureaucratic. I know it can be a bit slow to get things done. And there may be other nuances that I'm not aware of that maybe you can share with the rest of the viewers. And if you like this video, then please do hit the like button and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.